just one guy randomly said, spouses are a force to be reckoned with. More people should know about you all. And that was like a light bulb in my head. And I was like, you are so right. Like, people do need to know about us outside of our own military community.
Welcome to Drop and Give Me 20, where you learn keys to entrepreneurial success as Lindsey interviews business owners with military backgrounds on what works and what doesn't. Listen as they focus on the stories, both challenges and wins, that military entrepreneurs have faced in growing their businesses.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Drop and Give Me 20. I am your host, Lindsey, and I am joined today with Erica McMannes and Liza Rodewald with MadSkills. Good morning. Well, is it morning for us all, Erica and Liza?
Yes, it is.
How are you both doing today?
I'm great.
Good.
Thanks so much for having us on, Lindsey.
I'm so excited to share. We know each other through the military spouse community, of course. I'm so excited to have you guys on because you guys have created a really awesome business. I would love for the listeners to hear about that business. If you guys want to share that with us and what you guys are all about.
That sounds great. We are MadSkills, and we are a business that connects military spouses with virtual employment. And we provide outsourcing and virtual staffing services to companies that are looking to hire and augment their teams with virtual services.
And you guys knew each other. Were you stationed together?
Yeah, so Liza and I met kind of just as acquaintances in the local community that we were at right outside of Fort Lee, Virginia, about 3 years ago. Okay. So we met just in passing through some moms working at home, needing to get back into fitness, and our paths just crossed. And then when this business concept kind of started rolling, I knew that Liza was the one that was going to be able to help me get this off the ground.
So like in the middle of a burpee, you look over at Liza and you're like, hey, we should start a business.
Not quite, but something along those lines.
So why MadSkills? Why did you guys decide to launch this? Of all the businesses that military spouses create, why this one?
Yeah, so I have been in the startup space for about 5 years working for a veteran startup and was just really able to see the innovation and creativity in these new ways that people can create solutions for the communities that matter to them. And so that just started to kind of mill in my mind. And I had built some other teams of military spouses for some other projects I was consulting on. And just one guy randomly said, spouses are a force to be reckoned with. More people should know about you all. And that was like a light bulb in my head. And I was like, you are so right. Like, people do need to know about us outside of our own military community. We all know we're all great. We can pat each other on the back all day long, but it's getting that out there into this business world that may not know we exist.
And did you have a background in, I guess, HR, and, the type of work that you guys do is helping military spouses with employment issues?
I had absolutely no background in that at all. I actually have a master's in human ecology and was a child development specialist for 10 years, working for MWR. So traditional military spouse story, I just saw a pivot that I had an opportunity to take and have really made this whole new career set out of something.
What about you, Liza? What's your background?
I have a background in computer science, so software developer, and I had worked from home with my own consulting company for the last 13 years. And I became a military spouse 4 years ago. So that's when I really started to see that it was an issue for the military spouse community, being able to take their jobs with them and to have careers. Before that, I had already been working from home. So when I became a spouse, it was an easy transition for me. I never lost income. I never lost my contracts or my positions. So when we moved for the first time and I saw all these professional spouses in my neighborhood, and they were like, how are you working from home? And what are you doing? And just seeing that it was a real problem. And then it just became a passion of mine to help solve it. So I started working one-on-one with spouses that I knew to help them create a business or start consulting or using their talents to create wealth for their families. And then so when Erica came to me with an idea to do something bigger on a bigger level, I was in immediately.
So when you guys work with the companies that are posting positions on the MadSkills website, what are some of the, I guess, the hesitations or, trepidations, I guess, from the hiring companies when it comes to military spouses?
I think the biggest thing that we face on a normal basis is people just not understanding virtual and remote work. Like, that is the trend. Like, that is next generation, and that is happening whether people want it to or not. So there's, some conversation and explaining, the ease of it, the benefits of it. There's cost saving analysis that goes into that. And we work really hard with like branding and content to put that message out there as well. But I would say that's probably the first. The people who have hired, like they see the quality of spouses very easily. We've had people come back and hire 4. We have one company that's hired 7 military spouses, from MadSkills. So the quality of work is the easy side. It's teaching or showing them that virtual capacity is really what is going to help their companies grow and get them the talent that they can't get if they're just trying to do it kind of old school.
And what type of companies do you guys try to recruit?
We really, to date, the military-owned companies have been our biggest advocate, right? I mean, they're the ones that know the front line of service and the quality of spouses. But we've had everywhere from bookkeeping positions to content and blogging, coding and development type positions. So it's kind of been a wide array, which is nice because a lot of the MadSkills that spouses have, do cover a very large spectrum.
Right. Liza, I know that you guys are working on a hackathon now. And of course, by the time this episode releases, that will have already, occurred. But tell us about some of the different focuses or projects or events that you guys are working on that fall under MadSkills and why you guys are creating those.
Well, one of the things that we saw as soon as we started MadSkills is we had spouses coming to us saying, I want to be able to work from home. What can I do? Or maybe they had a skill set that doesn't necessarily translate well into virtual work. And it's more of a needing to be location-based type career. And of course, me being in technology, I have a passion for that anyway. And I love teaching people how to code and just opening that door and kind of showing the curtain behind and help to lower the intimidation factor in that. Because a lot of spouses, when they meet me and I say I'm a developer, they're immediately intimidated, like, oh, I could never learn that. And one of my passions is to just kind of help show, yes, you can. It's like learning a musical instrument. It just takes time and practice, and you can develop those skills too. And it's one of the best skills to translate into a work from home type position. And we've had technology companies coming to us saying, we can't fill these positions. We need people to fill these roles. And so we see the gap there. We have spouses who need jobs and tech companies who need people. So we're wanting to help bridge that together. And the hackathon, the idea is I'm going to code online live in front of everyone. And we're all going to work on the same project together. And we're going to just teach some basics so that we can kind of pull back the curtain and release the intimidation factor and start to get some spouses interested. And we found military spouses are very interested in the tech space. And we're excited just to kind of bring that opportunity to them. And I'm assuming here, because I don't know that much about coding, but that can also translate to a career outside of the service. So when they are, separating from the military and now they're in the civilian space, that's something that they can carry with them. They can put it on a resume. It translates universally. And, now they know, okay, when we're out of the military, here's my path, here's my career path and what we're doing next. Right.
I would love to hear as a team, 2 people running this business, what kind of tips that you can share with us as listeners on, working with someone else on a business, a partnership, like how does that look for you guys? I think the partnership definitely looks like a marriage to us, and we treat it that way. There are always highs and lows to every relationship that you have, but I think Erica and I do a good job of supplementing each other and knowing when to step in and when to back off. And we both have a very clear communication, so we can say whatever to each other, and we both don't take it personally. We work together well, and we have to remember all the time to stay in that constant communication, so that one of us isn't doing something and then the other one's left behind, or we're making decisions without the other one. So we do lots and lots of video calls so we can see each other and gauge our reactions to things and just work together that way. Right, because you guys aren't near each other. No, I'm in New York and she's in Virginia. So. Right. So have you guys ever had a disagreement?
I don't think we've had a disagreement. I know one moment that stuck out when I was like, this is a marriage. I wouldn't have done that to my husband without asking his permission. Was we had been given some document to sign and I read it and I signed it and I sent it back, and Liza was like, wait, like we didn't talk about that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would have never done that to my husband, right? It was like a big decision. And so that was like a learning moment. I apologized. I was like, you are so right. I was like, this is a marriage. I was like, we have to do everything together, make every decision, for what's best for the company. And so that's just a learning lesson that I know. I don't think we've had a big disagreement. We're both pretty respectful. Like if we think there's something that we should be doing different or to bring a new conversation to the table, we both do that pretty well.
Do you guys have a agreement or a formal contract or anything like that together? Like to, say whose responsibilities or who, or
I think there's different levels to that question. There's the legal side, which is like an operating agreement or a bylaw of our C Corp incorporation. But then we don't really have anything written as far as like our daily work goes. We're moving into our year 2, and we actually have kind of identified, all right, we need to have like a sit down and, where have we grown? Where do we need to maybe start bringing other people onto the team? And just being sure that we're always respectful of those lines with what our responsibilities are.
So 2 years from now, what does that look like for the future of MadSkills? Can you give us any hints?
Well, we will be doing the virtual staffing services more, and we're also going to be building out a brand new piece of technology to automate some of this stuff. So we are working on that to maybe get some funding for this summer, and that's the direction we're going. So what we have in place, and then actually moving this into more of a software product that has some automation to it. So we're really excited about introducing some new technology to the tech world.
I think you're the first person we've told that to.
Now a lot of people are going to hear that come May when this releases. But that is exciting. I found that, I have a short-term goal list hung up here on my corkboard, and I have a long-term goal list. So it just helps. And I can imagine, especially when you're working virtually with another business partner, that helps to have, that clear, where are we working towards? And also adapt along the way. If you want to have a hackathon in the middle of it, that's okay too. I'm going to switch gears. I did not ask you guys if it was okay to ask this, but I would love to hear, what has been your response from on base about your business, from base leaders?
That is a really good question. It's been interesting. What we're doing is a little bit outside of the box of the normal realm of how opportunities or employment things are delivered. But I have to say it has been overwhelmingly very positive. We work with certain organizations on posts that will actually send spouses to us and say, there's things that you are feeling that, whether it's, the way the organization runs or, just the way, the rules and regulations that they have to follow as government entities, their hands are tied sometimes. So we actually have a lot of people who will refer via email or, hey, connect with MadSkills, look at their website. I was just actually on Fort Eustis working with the local employment center last week, just talking about the things that we're doing and the different opportunities. So for me here, it's been really great. Liza, what about up in New York?
Yes. Every person that I have talked to has been very, very supportive. We've gone to numerous organizations and been invited in very quickly, and they pass around our information because they tell us all the time, the number one question they get asked is, how can I work virtually or work from home? Like, those are the positions that I'm interested in. And that seems to be the gap that they don't have just yet. So they've been working with us very seamlessly, and we've appreciated all of the support that we've received from the military community.
Are there issues when you're working with some of the candidates about working virtually from home if they live on post?
Yeah, we have actually run into one story specifically where a spouse was offered a job to work from her home. She did live on an Army base, and she, just being the smart, savvy business person that you should be, wanted to know the rules and regulations and how she should best go about this, even down to taxes. And by the end of going around the post that day, she was so discouraged. She was just like, forget it, I'm not going to do this. So that raised some red flags, and we kind of started to do some more talking and some more research. So there is a petition and initiative going around right now to kind of start to look at that again for home-based businesses on military bases across the branches. And AUSA has been very receptive, and we'll be working with them in June to kind of talk about it and bring it a little bit more to light.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate the work that you are both doing for that, because I know that I've never lived on post or on base, and I didn't know that there were guidelines and policies in place for people who, not only business owners, right, but even for 1099s, like people who, are just subcontracting, are being subcontracted work from. So they have to follow the guidelines and the regulations as well, right? Right.
But it's so muddled. It's just not a seamless process. The information's not correct or the same wherever you go. So hopefully there'll be some ease and some fluidity there pretty soon.
I don't know, across different branches too. I'm sure different branches have different guidelines, and then depending on the base that you are at and what that looks like. So I'm sure it can get very confusing, but I appreciate you taking, the time to look into that and develop those conversations so that it can, turn into more employment opportunities. And of course, all the benefits that's can come out of that. I'm going to ask a weird question. So, Liza, are you close with your family?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me how they support you as a business owner.
My family is amazing. I've been doing business for, like I said, 13 years ago, I started my first business. This is business number 4, maybe even 5 now for me. And my sisters are also entrepreneurs as well and run their own businesses. So my family was the kind where you grew up and my mom and dad would always say, well, you can do whatever you put your mind to. They're very encouraging. So anytime I come up with an idea, they're like, just go for it. That sounds great. So they're not the pessimistic crowd at all. So I think they're definitely the fuel that has given me the confidence to start off when I first started off. And then they just continue to be my biggest cheerleaders. I think my mom likes every single Facebook post in that. So you can always see her, Joe. She likes all of our posts. So she's a great source of support for me.
I hope to see Joe like the podcast episode when it releases out too.
She will.
What about you, Erica? How does your family support you as a business owner working from home?
Yeah, again, 100% supportive. My family, a little more traditional in their job roles, but not entrepreneurs growing up. So that was something I kind of fell into. But the moment I saw the opportunity in entrepreneurship, I was like, this is where I belong. So I think there may have been like this small like transition where they're like, what is she doing exactly? But supportive and loving and trusting, again, do whatever you want to do when you grow up type scenario. But my dad has worked full time from home in a consultant type position for probably the past 10, 12 years. So I saw that experience and saw that opportunity. And so he gets what I do with, you may be on vacation, but still got to take a phone call because you have a client that needs to, talk to you type thing. So supportive, and they've been really great.
I don't want to get into what I've seen on social media too much, but I've read some things every now and then about someone who says, her husband doesn't support her working. How do people get around that? And I try to be as positive and supportive as possible, but I'm also like, I can't imagine what that's like because that's not how it is for me. But I do understand that, we're all for all walks of life and different experiences and different upbringings. So I'm respective to that. We are coming up to the 20-minute mark. I want to ask Erica, what advice do you have for fellow military spouse who may be interested in starting a business?
Yeah, I would say I have 3 and I'll try to make them quick. But the first one is it's okay not to know. I'm like a recovering perfectionist. And, I always like to be able to know what's going on and I want to know everything. And that's really hard to do as a business owner because as a CEO and the position is you're not only projecting the vision and needing to be sure that, you're going in the right direction, but it's also when you're bootstrapping and it's just 2 of you, you have to fulfill all those positions that a large corporation may have. So, bookkeeping, business lawyers, taxes, all of this stuff that I'm I have to know how to do all this. I just don't. And so, there's humility in there and there's lessons learned and it's reaching out to people who are experts there. Thankfully, military spouse community always comes to the rescue and really tapping into those resources and taking advantage of it. My second one would be to move out of the military community. And that may sound counterproductive.
No, I love that one. That is a big one for me. Get off base.
Yeah, it's true. I think we tend to depend on the military community so much for survival at certain times because that's just what you have to do. That when it starts to come to business, you forget there is this massive world out there and you can tap into so many networks and connections and revenue streams and mentors and advisors. You really, really have to move out. And my last one would be growth does not always feel amazing. Liza and I are approaching the end of our year 1 and there's some growth that's happening and that's amazing, right? That's what you want to happen in a business. But I had a mentor share recently about it's like a lobster shell. You're growing out of your shell and there's that's uncomfortable because it's unknown, it's uncertain. You're a little bit vulnerable at times, but just to work through that, you can't stop because then, you're not going where you need to go. So yeah, I think that would be kind of my three first tips.
What about you, Liza? You have any tips for a military spouse who's thinking about starting his or her own business?
I think the main thing is to get started and then just to know when it's okay to pivot. You may not know exactly what you're going to be doing next year or the next 2 years. So it's okay once you get going if you decide, okay, this is a different direction I need to take, or this is the side of the business that's growing. So put your time into that side of the business and then build out the other things you want to do later. But it's okay to change. Change doesn't equal failure. Change is your ability to adapt to the situation and to know when to grow. So if something isn't working and you're putting all your time into it and it's still not working, it's okay to pivot. Like, don't think of it as a failure. Just keep going and make that change, whatever it is.
And, even if those that are listening don't want to be a business owner, of course, you guys have a wonderful organization that you've created to help provide employment opportunities. Let us know where we should follow you guys, or how do we connect with you online? I'd love to share that with our listeners because, even me as a business owner, we have hired through MadSkills, and I have found, wonderful employees through you guys. So, I appreciate that because as a business owner, I know that you guys have vetted the folks that are coming in. So I know I'm getting quality employees, and that just is one less thing that I have to worry about that I don't have time to do. So how do they connect with you guys?
Our website is hiremadskills.com, SKILLS.com, not to be confused with some of the Z's.
Yeah.
And that is our main website where you can find jobs. You can create a free profile if you're a military spouse. And also if you're a company, that's where you can sign up and search and post jobs and hire spouses as well. Our jobs available on our site are contract and employee based. So there are opportunities if you do start your own business and you're trying to get started for you to actually apply to some of those contract positions that are on our site as well. So business owners and spouses who want direct employment are both welcome on the site. So hiremadskills.com. You can find us on Facebook. We do lots of Facebook Lives. We are very active. Erica does an excellent job in all of our social media. So you can find us at facebook.com/hire_madskills again, and on Twitter as hire_madskills.
Okay, perfect. And then I know you are both on LinkedIn, so they can always connect with you there. Ladies, thank you so much for all of the great work that you do for military spouses and encouraging employment opportunities. I really want to thank you again for coming on the Drop and Give Me 20 podcast, and I hope that you both have an excellent day.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for listening to Drop and Give Me 20, brought to you by Germono Advertising Company in Norfolk, Virginia. Please visit our podcast in iTunes, click on subscribe, and leave us a review. Your support goes a long way. When you subscribe and leave reviews, it helps the guests on our show as well. Jump in and let us know what you think. You can also follow all of our guests on the Drop and Give Me 20 Facebook page. We have Instagram and Twitter. Those handles are Give Me 20 Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey Germono, and I appreciate you listening to the show.